Well, I gotta admit that I'll be real. Socialism lasted longer than I thought it would. For sure. I didn't expect it to take a month and a half for the collapse. Uh, this comes from Forbes. Mondani's proposed 9.5 New York City property tax increases stirs debate. Increase stirs debate. Zora Mondani won the election to be New York City's mayor starting in 2026. Mondani won in part due to his aspiration of making New York City more affordable through expanded offerings. While beneficial, these new expenditures are costly, and many aspects of operating the city have become increasingly expensive. In rolling out his budget, Mondani proposed a record high of $127 billion for expenditures, according to the New York Post. What potentially caught even more headlines was that he would pay for these higher expenditures in part by increasing property taxes by 9.5%. While the effects of increasing income taxes have been discussed in depth with Mondani's rise in an election, a lot less is known about what the expected and unexpected consequences might be for raising property taxes. Increasing consequences. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. I'm gonna give us a little backstory of a backstory. Back information. Mondani, he ran and he identifies as a quote democratic socialist, which in my opinion is a contradiction. Well, an oxymoron. And he's part of the DSA since 2017. Now, I think a quote democratic socialist is an oxymoron because okay, well let's put this. So I understand when it comes to like socialism, it's like who controls the means of production, and socialism believes that like oh the means of production is owned by the people and is governed by the people. So in my mind, if you put democratic in front of socialist, it's like a roundabout way of saying communism to me. Like yes,
Hmm.
it's run by the people, but you have a government that tells the people what what the programs and the means of production go to. So you found a roundabout way of fooling people into communism. Let's get that out of the
Hmm.
way. That's what to me. That's what that is. Democratic socialism is an oxymoron. It's just communism. Let's see. And he ran on policies such as fare free buses, universal child care, rent freezes, city owned grocery stores, and of course, naturally, a higher minimum wage. And while it should be noted that these are obviously good talking points, these are like a dumb public wants to hear those things because on the surface it's like oh great free stuff, I love free stuff. To be fair, I love free stuff as well, but nothing's free, everything has a cost, and that's the problem with like people who don't understand communism and socialism. They think just because the
Hmm.
government gives it to me, it is free. It's not free. It came from somewhere, and it came from someone, and it probably came from your tax dollars. Like fare free buses. Well, who's still gonna pay the bus drivers? Who's gonna pay to maintain the buses? Pay for the gas it takes to to for the buses to operate. That clearly is still gonna get paid by somebody, and at the end of the day, it's still you. Well, you as in the people in New York City through your taxes. So anyone who didn't see these tax increases coming is, I'm not trying to be mean, but they're aloof, obtuse. Like
Hmm.
it has to come from somewhere, and the easiest place for governors to increase their budget and how much money they intake is increase taxes. It's the easiest form of it. Same thing with universal child care, which like I like. I'm not gonna lie, I do like it. I like the concept that like people shouldn't be punished for having kids, but still it has to come from somewhere. So now everyone is paying for your kid, and let's be honest, New York City is run by it's mostly Democrats. For my
Hmm.
opinion, they don't like kids, so they're paying for kids they don't even like. So we'll get that out of the way. Higher minimum wage. just because you make the minimum wage higher doesn't mean that everything's going to go up. So either companies are going to cut costs, not cut costs, they're going to cut employees, or they're going to stop hiring employees, and usually increase the price of their products because now they have to fulfill the higher minimum wage. So those are just his policies he's run on. We can get into those a bit more, but so I looked it up. At first, I was like, okay, so he's when I was first reading the tweet or the X post, whatever. It said raising property taxes. I didn't read by. I read to 9.5%, and I was like, okay, 9.5%. Maybe it's like 8 or like 7. Maybe that might be the property tax. Then I looked it up. No, he's raising the taxes by 9.5%. So for retrospective, properties are divided into classes in New York City. Class 1, which is mainly your 1 to 3 family homes. The property tax right now is 9.8%. So he's going to increase that because it's across the board. It's like across the board 9.5%. So now property taxes just went from 9.8% to 28.3% for 1 to 3 family homes. Class 2, which is like your apartments, your condos, and co-ops, those are at 12.4%, and now they're about to go to 21.9%. Class 3 are utility properties. Those are 11. Those are now going up to 19.6%. And then the last one, Class 4, commercial, that is 10%, 10.8%. Now it's going to be 20.3%. So basically your taxes just went up 10%. And it's been a month. It's been a month since it and it's like, I have to imagine that he didn't walk into his office thinking that this was everything he said was just going to move on smoothly. I have to imagine he knew this was going to happen from the beginning. Now, granted, good on him for postponing it for like a month and a half, but nothing's free. That's the hard part of getting to people because people don't want to hear like, oh, there's a cost to everything. There's a cost of production to everything. There's a reason why your prices are this way, and they just want free. Which when you're living in an economy where I think it was like each person in a 2-family household in order to buy a house needs to make like 80 something grand a year. Accepting free stuff is nice, but it's never that easy.
Yeah.
And so like I have a piece of paper here. So like why would they raise taxes? Well, obviously it's to cover current spending levels that don't meet, like their budget doesn't meet what they want to spend it on. Scarcity. There's not enough money for all the things that they want to do, such as free bus fares, because bus drivers need to get paid, the buses need to be maintained, the gas it takes to run them, universal childcare, which includes daycares. Well, now the employees have to be paid, and if it's free childcare, more people are going to send their kids to daycares, which means now you're going to have to hire more people to make, to compensate for the increase in children, which means that's more employees you got to pay. And on top of that, as with both of those things, he's talking about higher minimum wage. So now everyone I just mentioned needs a pay raise. So that's even more taxes that need to be taken out just to fulfill the promises of the campaign, assuming he actually goes through with all of this. So yeah, and that's another thing I forgot. One of the ways he plans on getting the money for this was is he threatened to go to use people's pensions to help with the deficit.
That's hilarious.
I know, right? Retiree Health Benefits Trust, 229 million would be taken from this fund, which provides health coverage for city retirees, That's one. Rainy day funds, 980 million would be drawn out of this fiscal year. Oh, whatever. Um, that's y'all voted for this. I can't help you, but
Low key, low key, that's actually so based down with the boomer gentrocracy. Okay, enough boomer luxury communism, consumerism, whatever you want to call it.
mm-hmm.
We want to have a country in 15 years. I do not care.
And another one that I saw this as we were just pulling this up. Mandani's budget proposal cuts veteran funding.
Damn.
So veterans don't get the benefits that they were promised when joining the military. So again, it's hard to explain, but it's like everything has a cost. It's nice that they're telling you you're getting this for free, but it's not free. It's coming from somewhere. And in Mondani's case, for socialism, it's coming out of retiree health benefits and veterans benefits. That
Mhm.
I can't, you know what I mean? I can explain it for you. I can't understand it for you. Like like socialism is just, in my mind, it's just one step away from communism, and that's just time. Because yes, the means of production is owned by the people. Well, eventually, not everyone's gonna be like, man, I really need to go to this meeting every day to meet with everybody to make
Mhm.
decisions. They're eventually gonna be like, I vote you as the governor, or I vote you as this, that, and the other, and we devolve into communism, which is what it is. Now you have a government that's in control of the means of productions. They say it's by the people because, like, oh, we're the people. They voted for us. Well, it's just communism, and time again, communism has shown that it don't work. It's a problem. If it was working, the Soviet Union would probably still be around, and they probably wouldn't have been asking Europe, uh, or the UK how they manage their products so well. Because fun fact
Mhm.
about I remember reading about this. Like there was a department in communism in their government where they had to inventory everything in their country, like every product. They had millions and millions of entries, and they had to hire like hundreds of thousands of employees just to keep record of it. Then they went to UK or whatever, and they asked I forgot her first name. Her last name's Thatcher. Margaret,
Mhm.
is it Margaret Thatcher or whatever? I think it was like
Yeah,
the
Margaret Thatcher.
it was like the 80s. They're like how do, and they this is a quote from a book, and they're I think it was a good basic economics. And the communists asked Margaret Thatcher, "How do you control? Like, how do you all maintain or like keep track of the products and whatever going in and out of your country?" And she said something along the lines of, "We don't. the The businesses do, and they react to
Mhm.
how the public reacts to that." So again, socialism's one step away from communism, and communism fails. It's been a
Mhm.
month and a half since Mondani's been elected and running New York City. Actually, might not even be a month and a half. That's assuming he got in January 1st.
Yeah.
It's February. And February is not even a whole month this year.
It's a little baby month.
And then you mentioned something about homeless people dying.
Oh yeah, he they there was a particular like policing policy where with extreme cold weather warnings they would have police go basically sweep the streets and get all the homeless people to like a shelter or somewhere safe, or it was like clear them out from under bridges or something, and then they didn't do that, and like because he cut that and he's like, ah, this is wasteful spending, we're gonna cut this, and then they did that, and then it was like 11 homeless people died, which I don't know. I think that's kind of base low key,
Cleaning the streets.
right?
Yeah, and again, great example of something's got to give. And like, I wrote down like why socialism doesn't work. So one, be real, I don't know much about New York City besides Wall Street and the Big Apple. I don't think they produce anything. Like, as far as I know, there's not big factories in New York City. Um, I remember this was oh man, this is like almost 9 years ago. Amazon was gonna build like a warehouse or whatever in Queens, and then AOC was like, "Get that corporate stuff out of here," and then like 18,000 people didn't get jobs. But again, as far as I know, there's not a lot of factories. They get a lot of their stuff is imported to them. So this is all just to make a point. The reason why socialism doesn't work because it create like there's a lack of incentive for efficiency. If everything is just given, no one has to be like work harder to get ahead. Like one of the reasons why, again, I love capitalism. The reason why capitalism works is because essentially now, when you have two companies competing for your money, ideally either one's going to have to cut their prices but still provide the same quality of the product, or one company's going to have to produce a better quality product while still maybe maintaining a reasonable price. There's competition.
Hmm.
These companies want your money and they're going to want to compete for it. Under socialism, where things are just given to you, there's no need for efficiency. There's no need to be the best. So a great example would be the daycares. Like ideally, uh, like for example, like these daycares are like, hey, we want you to bring your kids here. We care about their education, their development, blah blah blah, and we hire people who we think actually care about that because they have to compete against other daycares for your business. Under socialism, when it's universal childcare, that doesn't matter, at least to the sorry, the companies, the daycares, who they hire or what the business plan is, they're getting the money regardless. So they can hire one of the homeless people that were on the streets, and that person could be watching your kids. Have zero experience with watching kids, but they're watching your kids because they're getting paid either way. There's no incentive to be like, we will take care of your kids because they're going to get paid either way. If you can get paid to do the same amount of work or even less, most people would take that. People would take a
Hmm.
relaxing job that they're going to get paid the same amount of money. And technically, under Mondani, the increased pay, even more. So there's no incentive to be like, we only want uh, like childcare professionals, like always they studied child psychology, or they used to be teachers and blah blah. There's no incentive for efficiency, and and same thing with the what's it called, the bus fares. Like if you're getting paid the same amount or even more, there's no incentive for the companies to be like, hey, we take care of our buses. Well, not only do we clean the outside of the bus, we clean the inside of the bus. It doesn't matter. They're getting paid either way. Why would they hire somebody to clean the bus when they can cut that guy out because they're going to get paid either way?
Hmm.
Don't pay him. More money in our pocket. Run the buses. And I'm not going to pull up a picture here, but I've seen pictures of like like at least one sidewalk just covered in human fecal matter. It's New York City. It probably shouldn't be shocking, but the amount was still shocking to me.
Hmm.
So that's one thing socialism doesn't work. Um, well, and all that. Another, I have a list here. Doesn't work. It creates a lack of efficient. The lack of efficiency often leads to a lower standard of living for the general population. So now you have buses that aren't taken care of, at least clean, sanitized or whatever. So people poop in the streets, they step in the poop, they get onto the bus, no one's going to clean the bus. They fire that guy because they're getting paid either way. They don't have to fight for your business. You got a dirty bus, lower standard of living. You drop your kids off at daycare. Both parents need to work to maintain a one bedroom apartment in New York City. Drop your kids off at daycare.
Hmm.
In their minds, they're like, oh, it's someone who takes care of my kid. In actuality, it's someone who locks him in a room with Cocoa Melon and Baby Shark for 14 hours till you get back. Lower standard of
Hmm.
living. And I imagine it would be the same way with the city-owned grocery stores, because the food just doesn't come in. Someone's got to pay for the food. It's your tax dollars, and they're not going to be like a great example. Because I used to work in retail, is like retail workers, not retail workers, but I mean retail workers, but like when they bring in the fruits, the vegetables, the things they see, they're instructed to throw away the stuff that looks bad, because one, rotten or rotting food will usually infect the ones around it. There's
Hmm.
one. And B, if it doesn't look appealing, most people won't buy it. But with government owned grocery stores, meaning taxpayers are paying for the food already, there's no incentive to be like, oh, this is the good stuff. In fact, there's more of incentive to just keep the rotting food to give to you. That way, it lines the pockets more for the store owners. There's no incentive. There's no incentive to fight for your business, because you're gonna come there anyway for the food. So, and this isn't new. I'm not bringing up new information. These aren't theories. These are things that actually happened under systems of socialism and communism. This is nothing new.
Hmm.
Like, there are stories of like people, like they have to eat the rotten onion, because it's all because one onion's rot, infecting the other onions, because it's how onions work. But there's no like sorting. There's no like, oh, is this the good, this bad? Doesn't matter. They just bring it all in. There's no point in hiring somebody or hiring extra people to go through it to make sure it's sanitary or it's good or it looks appealing to you. No point in hiring them. You're gonna come there for your food, and they're getting paid either way. Might as well cut more employees out. Just throw whatever is in there in front of the people. Lower standard of
Hmm.
living, and that's just in general. Um, and okay, so I have another point here. I'm making this point, but it does kind of seem like I've seen somewhere that, uh, like some Democrats are kind of like showing away from Mondani because of the tax increase. So take this part with a grain of salt. I wrote down like, because socialist leaders do not face the immediate feedback of their financial what's called policies. They usually continue to make the same mistakes indefinitely. So, like, Mondani says the bus fares are free. By the time it becomes an actual problem, either A, he might have already been reelected, or B, he's probably not getting elected again, so he doesn't care. So, and the mistakes will just continue, because, again, with communism and socialism, it takes time from the means of production to actually get to the leaders. Under capitalism, that's not a thing. In capitalism, if the company realizes something's not working, they fix it right then and there. They don't have to go to the president to ask for permission to change it, which that alone takes time. Again, nothing new. This happens before. This happens all the time under places with, communism, socialism. But he's going to keep making policy changes that will affect the people of New York City. It's not going to affect him, so he's just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Well, we say mistakes. New York City voted for this. Let's get that out of the way. But he's going to keep doing it. So, in my mind, this is all probably going to get worse. Because one, he already said he's going to increase the taxes, the property taxes, by 9.5%. We just read a little bit ago. He's going to dip into pension reserves and the veterans benefits. So it's just going to get worse. And so there's that. And
Hmm.
my final point, which kind of wraps it. Oh, sorry. Which kind of wraps everything together, is that socialism does not eliminate scarcity. People's wants will always exceed what is available. That's scarcity. Just making something affordable, quote unquote, doesn't mean that you can get it, or making it free doesn't mean it's just like a pure benefit with nothing that comes from you, or you're going to sacrifice anything. Uh, Again, make like making something affordable just means that they're going to refuse to pay the full cost of production. You, the
Yeah.
taxpayer, are going to cover the rest of it, but you theoretically won't notice. But I think most people would realize a 9.5% increase, but most likely most people don't care because when they get their checks, they're not really going to look at it. They just see that, oh, I have some, less money today, like this paycheck. Maybe I didn't clock in. You know what I mean? They're not going to notice that until eventually it just builds up over and over and over again until you've gotten to places where, well, now the taxes you pay have gone to 30 and 40%, which is, this happens in socialist countries that, well, we say works is a strong word for socialist countries, function enough where it doesn't kill their
Mm.
people.
Right.
30, 40, 50% taxes. You're getting there in New York City, which is already a difficult place to live in because of how high rent is and blah 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 blah. But that's all the points I've made.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on board.
And
You
like,
kind of did a pretty comprehensive thing there, so I'm kind of left with not much to say.
and like, the problem
Cosine stamp of
is,
approval.
wait, what?
Cosine stamp of approval. Boom, boom.
Approved, but I don't know where this goes because like, it's no secret that socialism is not something that people across the country are like, ooh, this is bad. We view it like communism. Even during the Red Scare, they don't view it that way. And New York City, the dude ran on a democratic socialist ticket. Um, so in theory, if we're really gonna, let's forget the fact that he's getting some backlash for the 9.5% tax increases. Like, he was successful. I say problem. It's what the people voted for. He's successful. That means that nearly anywhere else in the country, someone can run as a Democrat, run on a socialist ticket, and succeed. Now, granted, we're seeing that, you know, he increased taxes by 9.5%. Anyone with basic levels of education and economics understands that that was going to happen to begin with.
Mm.
Here it is. Maybe this might put people off from socialism. Maybe. I don't know. Some people's skulls are pretty thick. But I see all these, posts on TikTok and some on X and Facebook about the beauties of socialism, um, and what they describe. Yes, it's nice. It really is nice. It's kind of hard to fight. Like, you get to work, you get to do what you want because someone somewhere is going to need what you are making, and then you are going to get what someone else is making because it's what you need, and then you get to have a wonderful life because everyone gets what they need.
Hmm.
That's nice in theory. It's great for La La Land, but I have to go to work at 6 in the morning every morning because people don't know how to throw chemicals away properly. And there's people are always going to want more than what you know always going to want more than there is. Again, it's scarcity. There's scarcity everywhere because people have an unhealthy amount of want. And to an extent, you can blame consumerism for this. Billboards, ads everywhere telling you what you need to buy this, you need to get this, and I've like earlier today there's this company that makes like poker chips and like poker sets, and it's like a John Wick poker set, and I'm like, that's cool, I really want it, but A, I don't play poker. B, I don't have $350 to throw at something that I don't play, you know but I want it. I do. It's nice. It looks nice. I'd like to feel the continental coins in my hands. I like rubbing poker chips together. Like, And a John Wick themed poker set just sounds cool. But it's not free, it costs money. So when you have a country, an economy where, debt's piling up, uh, bankruptcies are piling up, uh, credit card, whatever, payday loans are on the rise. It's being offered as if it's a normal thing. So yeah, when you have a politician that's like, "I'll just give you stuff for free," it's kind of hard. Again, simple-minded people. It's kind of hard to be like, "Yeah, that's. I don't want to do that. I don't want free thing." But there's always a cost.
Hmm.
So, but this might change again. This might change 9.5%, and I think like it might say it here. I gotta look at it, but I think like even Democrats are like, you ran on not increasing taxes or something like that, or only increasing taxes for the super wealthy. Oh, that's another thing. People are like, only like 30 to 40% of New Yorkers don't even own property. And it's like, oh, no, that means that you got 60% of people who do own property, and they're probably not going to be happy about it. And they're probably going to let their building, like, fester. And because eventually, like, again, say it's rent freezes everywhere in the world. This is like almost oldest time kind of BS. Freezing rent has never gone well. Because if it has, it'd be
Yeah.
everywhere. And it has
It's such a dumb idea.
yeah, and has a habit of making things worse. However, we can put tinfoil hats on for a second. There's a
Already ahead of you.
yeah, I know. So I've heard. Now this is again conspiracy theory. Take it with a grain of salt. But conspiracy theories do seem to be a lot more right these days. But that's a different story. That he's doing all this so that people will be like, man, it costs a lot more money to maintain these buildings at fixed rents than it costs lots more money than it is if I just let the building rot and not do anything about it. So there's a theory that the rent control, all these things are going under. They're going south, and then the government will be like, "Here, we'll buy those buildings from you, and then we'll rent it out to people, and we'll pay, we'll use taxpayer dollars to fix it up." So then, bam, you have like, be generous here, 75% of the buildings are owned by the government that they rent out to people. So that's a way of, again, tinfoil hat, take it with a grain of salt for sure. But the concept of you will own nothing and you will be happy might be a roundabout way of getting it, might be a happy coincidence, but that conspiracy theory. So,
Yeah. No, rent control, yeah, it's never worked. It won't work. Everyone who thinks it's worked had a rent control department and then they were happy about it. When in reality, it actually, the worst part is it makes the situation even worse because it disincentivizes new people to build buildings, which is the actual way that you reduce the cost of housing. Like if you're
mm-hmm.
someone who's like, yeah, but rent is so expensive, the way you bring that down is by more housing, by inducing more competition, not by making it to where competition is entirely like infeasible. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's never worked. It never will work. It's the whatever theory it's based on doesn't make any sense. It's honestly what it exists as, especially in the context of New York, is a like voter appeasement thing. I would be surprised if they did it in mass almost at all, even if they promised it, because like it's so obvious that it just doesn't work. There's a reason no major city has done it in like forever or at large scale in such a long time is because everyone knows it doesn't work. But you can kind of snatch that audience of like 20 something, 30 somethings who work a job that's kind of difficult for them to they work a job, but like rent is a big chunk of that, and so they've been getting big rent increases, and especially recently with like the housing crisis, the new housing crisis and whatnot, hasn't been as much house building, so the cost of land is going up, so the cost of the rent is going up, and they have to pay more and more and more each month or each year every time they have to renew their lease. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get them to vote for you, even if you're probably not going to do anything. If he's smart, instead of doing rent control, which I think that he has started doing, is just like basically saying, hey, we're going to start building like way more housing. We're going to like rubber stamp, green light a ton of like building, of new buildings, higher buildings, more space efficient buildings for like housing. We're going to get rid of some of the red tape. If he's smart, that's what he's going to do because it's and that strategy works. Like we know it works because it works in Texas and it works in Florida, um, where they've literally the rents have gone down since their peak in COVID, and they're actually I think in Austin I want to say are lower than they were before COVID because they've been doing so much building of like all
Hmm.
sorts of densities of housing. Because it's like if the market wants to build an apartment here, let the market build an apartment here. Like don't why we don't need this artificial nonsense of like, well, we think this part of town would really only be best if it was single family homes. Shut up. I don't care. If the market says we want a sky like a 15 floor, 400 floor apartment complex here and people pay to live there, let them do it, dude. What do you care?
Hmm.
I don't know. That's my
And you brought up another point.
opinion.
Rent controlled apartments decentivizes people, well, construction companies from building more houses, or people taking out loans to build more apartments. And that's another thing I forgot was like, not only does it decentivize, more apartments being built or homes being built, it also makes it so that people who live in the rent controlled apartments don't leave. Generally, now granted, situations different for everybody. People in their 20s and 30s, they have a apartment that they live in, and somewhere between their 30s and their 40s, they might buy a home because they're having kids, and they move out of the apartment. Or maybe they move to like a bigger apartment till they can save more money because of the kid, and then they eventually buy a home. They move out. And under rent controlled apartments where people are like, my rent's so low, why would I move? So you have people who live in the same apartment for 30 or 40 years. So
Mm-hmm.
you just create a scenario where more apartments are not being built and there's no vacancies. So all apartments are being filled and no one's moving out. So then what does that
Mm-hmm.
generate? Well, people do have to live somewhere. Then you essentially have a black market for apartments. Be like, hey, I'll rent this to you, but you got to pay me. Obviously, you can live
Yeah,
here. You
you
got
get
to pay
subletting
me some
markets.
extra money. You know what I mean? So now you have a black market for apartments because there's no scarcity is real. Not only that is the scarcity for apartments is real. Apartments and homes is real, but now there's nothing to make the scarcity less. There's no like, okay, well, we have a lot more people here. A lot of people aren't moving out. We should probably build some apartments that way people can live in our city. Yeah, people won't move out.
Yeah.
So now there's even less people who live in homes. People are going to be in their 40s and 50s living with their parents. This isn't new. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. Like San Francisco did rent control in the 1930s, and they stopped it like 10 years later because rent was going up, created black markets, and what's called standards of living went down. Everything we
Mm-hmm.
just complained about for the past 20 minutes. So, to make it sensational, this is going to be a turning point. Well, this is a fork in the road. He just, after a month, in some cases, the amount of taxes being paid has just gone up 50%. In some places, it's doubled. Class 1, class 4. Now, people are either going to have like an epiphany, be like, okay, maybe socialism is not the answer. This is an issue. If more socialists gets voted into here, I'm not gonna be able to afford rent or pay taxes. There's that, which is kind of what I'm hoping for sure. Let's get my biases out of the way. Or B, they're going to completely ignore that and be like, we want more socialism. And kind of pessimistic, but based on things, videos I've seen on TikTok, people don't get it. They don't want to see the issues. Like, I am more than willing to point out the problems with capitalism, especially laissez-faire capitalism. Creates cartels and oligarchies. More than willing to talk about that when the time comes. But it's like these people see socialism, they see the problem, and they ignore it, or they try to twist it into being like it's good because they'll only tax the rich. Which, if anything, this is it just stated earlier, 9.5% tax increase across the board. It's not just the rich, because in theory, and I think this is happening, the rich are moving out. People are leaving.
Hmm.
They're going to Florida. I think I heard somewhere that there's going to be a second Wall Street in like Tennessee, Texas, or Florida, somewhere around there. They're trying to build a second Wall Street. The rich are going to leave. So, when the rich leave, where are the taxes going to come from? The middle to lower people. And then things get worse. But you voted for it. I don't know what to tell you. You voted for it. Not you specifically. The people in New York City. They voted for it. You know what I mean? It's kind of
That's
not
good.
trying
I
to be.
can't believe you would accuse me of that.
I know, right? It's like, well, you should probably look. Did a little research into what your politician was advocating for before you dove in. But speaking of the government making stupid decisions. Give me 1 second. I forgot to set this timer. Stopwatch. Uh, this next one comes from MSN. I can't believe I couldn't read that.